Don't you find it notable that as Oversight Committee minority ranking member, you spend a lot of time talking about oversight of Congress in addition to the administration?
Well, we have to be very careful. We can't turn this into a personal attack on other members of Congress. But this committee begins to appreciate that problems in the administration are often because of structural problems in the Congress, how we appropriate money, how we authorize. I'll give you one. Most of you know, at least by name, the 9/11 Commission. But one of the recommendations of the 9/11 Commission, which was unanimous, and Lee Hamilton and I have continued to remain close and see each other several times a week. One of the recommendations of that commission was that appropriators lose the funding for our clandestine missions, that the CIA, the NSA, and all the other alphabets get their funding from the Intelligence Committee, that committee, which looks at the programs of success, be held completely accountable, and that committee, which is a temporary committee, you can't serve on it for more than 8 years, should be the one place that, whether it's a defense contractor like the ones that helped bribe Duke Cunningham, or the military agencies and government agencies themselves, go to. Single stop, full accountability, and then leadership direct oversight. That didn't happen. You know why? The appropriators said that they didn't want to give up that authority. So today, there's a whole new round of appropriation that controls our most secret programs. And it's wrong. It's wrong according to an independent commission. So would I say that's a congressional failure? Totally. The Speaker made a decision not to accept one of the most important parts of it. The next Speaker, if it's a Republican, I will be making my vote for that Speaker contingent on a number of things. And one of them is take on the appropriators, at least as to the programs that are most hidden from the American people, because those are the ones most susceptible to misconduct.
Well, we have time for one or two more questions. Yes, over here. Jim.
Outside my field of view, I wouldn't even have seen you.
Congressman, you touched briefly on the continuing TARP program. Do you have a view on the proposed plan that's been discussed by the PAYSAR to cut the compensation of executives? Is that an unwarranted intrusion in the marketplace, or something that's legitimate considering the role of these companies in the problem?
You know, I'm not an expert on bankruptcy, but having spent over almost 30 years now in business, I have enough appreciation for companies and their bankruptcies that what I would say is, yeah, I think it's inappropriate. And I think it's inappropriate for this reason. An AIG would be an exception where we own 80% of the company. Okay, we're the stockholders. That's a very different situation. But let's just take Bank of America or Goldman or anyone else who received funds, even if they still have some of them. We clearly had an opportunity going in to set the terms and conditions. We chose not to. We clearly had an opportunity, like we did with Lehman Brothers, to choose who failed and who didn't fail. We chose these to be successes. We told them, you continue running as usual. Here's the money to bolster. And to a great extent, particularly in that famous, they all flew in, they all got their money, and they all flew out, we told them they had to take it because it was part of public confidence. We didn't say, do you need it? And they said, yes, I desperately need it. Give it to me. So one of the problems with compensation is we don't have the high ethical and moral ground to do anything except say, what is your plan to return our money, and is that plan sound? Now, having said we don't have a right to do this, if their plan is not sound, and part of their plan that's not sound is how much they're paying in bonuses, then we'd have every right to do it. To actually say to Ken Lewis, leaving a very profitable company, that his last year's pay somehow are excess because he's on the political out is inherently wrong. And that's where the problem comes. Is Bank of America making profit sufficient to repay all the money they borrowed from us? Yes. Is it likely they're going to continue to? As far as I know, yes. So do we have that interest as a creditor in saying, if I'm going to be repaid, you're going to have to show me you can pay me, and part of it is your compensation? No, we don't. And that's where the administration and the PAYSAR is very wrong. We do have, as stockholders in some companies, we have an obligation, and we should assert that. I think AIG is a good example. Let's remember one thing, though. Government-running entities has been incredibly unsuccessful in those being profitable and able to repay us. So I'd be a little careful how closely we run a company with government people. But I do think that if we change the dialogue to all actions of companies who have borrowed money from us, are they going to be able to pay us back in a timely fashion and meet all the obligations? If the answer is yes, it should be hands off. If the answer is no, well, then we should be holding hearings on that. So I know it's not popular. Everyone wants to stick it to the guy who's getting a big bonus. But if I get back every cent that we loaned, that's going to be the hero company. Because at AIG, I'm not going to get back, and even including the money that we've invested separately, I'm not going to get back that $180 billion. I'll be lucky to get back 2/3 of it. And that's an example where we went in with too much money to do too many things that we hadn't figured out. And I guess that's probably...
That's about it. Well, we appreciate your time. You know, one of the reasons we, Judicial Watch, invited Congressman Issa not only for his prescient work on ACORN, but looking at that Fannie Mae Freddie Mac report, the bipartisan analysis or the bipartisan criticism that you brought to bear, I thought was very enlightening and very useful. That, you know, when Judicial Watch approaches these issues, approach from a conservative perspective, but we understand that the temptations of big government and the corruption attendant with it is great with both Republicans and the Democrats, and I encourage you to maintain that clear-eyed perspective.
When I can't say the emperor has no clothes, I'll leave office.
Well, I appreciate your time this afternoon, Congressman. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.